Alright, let's get the bottom line out of the way real quick. Palantir will be going down. I warned you about everything that is happening right now literally 2 weeks ago. As you can see on the screen right now, you can basically see the video that I made about 2 weeks ago, could be roughly even more so, 2.5-ish, whatever. But the point being is, listen carefully.
To see and how the two things are correlated, you'll be able to see. Of course, I will mention the also before we continue, if you guys don't mind, real
yeah, guys, if you don't mind,
or say something more up to date with regards to Palantir, you'll simply not know I'm posting, and then you'll still have the old thesis in mind. So you've got to have it this way. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.
Definitely
subscribe to my friend Don't Mash his channel if you are not there yet. And of course, don't forget to put the notifications to all, like I just said. So let's get on with the video. All right. So yeah, I know it's all scary about here, but we are looking at the quarterly chart right now, and yeah, that's kind of what we've seen. And yeah, it's not going to be that straightforward. I know everybody's panicking, so well, it depends on you whether you want to panic or not. I'm just going to tell you what it is that I'm seeing from the standpoint, from the technical analysis standpoint, and you do with it as you please, right? At the end of the day, that's kind of how it works. Join my community, you'll know more. I keep my community up to date on the daily basis. So let's quickly switch to the 1 minute chart, which don't forget, we are having some price action going on in the futures today, but these will not actually register into the price action or the pre-post market of Palantir and the various other assets until tomorrow. So basically that is kind of redundant stuff. And in reality, since I'm not going to switch over to the indices, what we are seeing is basically going to sum itself up with the opening up where we closed roughly. So it's kind of meaningless, right? About 99% that's what's going to happen. We're going to talk about that later in the next video. For right now, yes, the channel is pointing downwards, but wait, it's not that straightforward. Nothing is all that simple. Nothing is just all that straightforward, linear in one single direction. There are corrections in the market. First of all, objectively looking right now at the 5 minutes, although of course it may change and slightly adjust as we go into the pre-market tomorrow, or rather overnight for me. So let's try to look at the bigger picture of things instead of hyper-focusing on what is the very tight-knit sort of neighborhood of the price action for the following maybe day or two. Let's look at the bigger, broader picture. Maybe there is more hidden in there that we can see right away. For example, as you can see now on the chart, we have two channels. One of them is very narrow, one of them is very wide. And objectively, we can say we've been moving along this channel and we broke down within this channel. Kind of we penetrated back into the channel that we actually have acknowledged prior, but that's a whole separate story. The bigger story here to be sort of attentive to is to notice, again, I'm probably out of the camera as always, I tend to do, we have this channel, right? We have this wider channel, the broader moving average sort of range, and it does look like we're establishing right now a bit of a sideways price action altogether, although it is very wide. Yes, it's wide because we're zoomed in and we're merely on the 30 minutes. If we just zoom out just a little bit and remember that on the broader spectrum of the head and shoulders that we are seeing in terms of scale, right, in terms of what actually is going on, in terms of harmonic behavior of that very price action, as you can see, we're talking about basically nothing. We're kind of too stuck in that very narrow neighborhood. In fact, that's part of the thing I would like to prevent us from doing. Let's look at the broader picture. Well, Greg, on the broader picture, you're having this line going up. Is that the case? Well, kind of, sort of, actually. Like, look, for example, since we're already at the 4-hour range, try to ignore my beautiful drawing right there. Pay attention to the momentum. The momentum is bullish, about to penetrate the 50 range, which kind of indicates where our bullish and bearish momentum separate. So simply by going into over that 50 range will become even more bullish. So there is a buildup of bullish momentum on the longer range of things. If we're attentive, first of all, we have a potential top here to be retested, a potential resistance, as we can see what was a support here, then became resistance right here. If we want to be objective about that level, it's that 143.71 level, which actually played the role of the support in this instance. So yeah, it's not going to be out of the imagination. Even if we break out of this trend that we're seeing in the background, it's not going to be out of the imagination, not out of the ordinary to see the price action testing that very level, kind of moving into a negative wedge, if you will, to an inverted funnel, very similar to what we actually seen before. Again, what we've tested here, we've been tested it here. So similarly, we end up testing it here, and very much so like we've seen before, the price action can slip out of these ranges. There's a wider range that is being observed at this process, right? There's a wider range than what you're seeing currently. A little hyper-focused on, so let's go to the larger time frames, see what larger time frames are saying. In fact, the larger time frame, which is the daily, we in fact are already above that 50 range, so in fact we are technically already bullish. It is kind of, in and out in that sense that we're having this mixed sort of momentum, and it makes sense, actually makes sense, which I will highlight in my following video about the market. I kind of expected the market to behave in that shifty way as we went into a long weekend, which I absolutely forgot about. I was absolutely certain until the weekend itself that we're actually going to be going back to trading on Monday, and I was absolutely wrong. I completely forgot about President Day.
Bottom line is that I warned you about this very behavior and what I've expected, and you can see the support and resistance levels that are currently at play. And let's switch quickly to our actual chart. As you can see, we've been subject to these support and resistance levels sharply, just like I said we will. Objectively, even a blind man or a woman can see that. Of course, it is a sort of process. Nothing is linear nor straightforward in the market. We end up moving through some of these support and resistance levels within the framework of the channels that we have, given the momentum that is building up. But that is the problem. I warned you about this literally 2 weeks ago, and nothing has changed. In fact, now it is far more evident that we are now moving towards that range where the price action will become more and more bearish. As you can see, we're basically running out of that bullish momentum. Once we do, when we have the confluence of forces, guess what will happen? The price action will break down. Of course, it's not necessarily going to happen right away. We still are looking forward, potentially retesting that 157, 158, and when everybody will come to the conclusion that everything is fine and we're going to be bullish from here on out, that's where the trap will kick in. In fact, we've seen these levels play a role in the past. If we look back, we'll see these levels potentially. Here they are. You can see them quite clearly being respected by the market. By the way, boys and girls, tell me if you do like the new, definitely tell me in the comments if you do like the sort of the new layout, the way the videos work. I can put myself right there, I can put myself wherever, it doesn't matter, you know, on the grand scheme of things. I hope you guys like the overall structure. I think it's a little bit better. As you can see, these levels were tested before, acknowledged quite significantly, right? And so it's not a question of whether we will test them, if we will come in the neighborhood, into the area of these levels, but rather a question of how soon will we do so, or will we even reach those levels, because if we will, these levels will be retested, obviously, as we see the other levels that I've acknowledged literally several weeks ago. And you can see all these levels played a significant, accurate role. And the very same thing, and I know it's going to be unpleasant to acknowledge, but the very same reasoning about why I think that the price action will behave one way or another, those are the very same tools that led me to see this in the first place. So I hope you guys will take this seriously enough to understand that maybe there is a bull trap here. Of course, you want to understand the in-depth, learn proper technical analysis, join my community. You can see right there, sorry, it says patreon.com/Greg_re_H. Join the community. It's now 50% discount. And in fact, let me bring it in real quick if I can, kind of like this, right? In fact, you can join at $40 a month right now. In 2 weeks from now, this price will no longer be valid, no longer be accessible. This price will be hiked to $70. In fact, it should have been already. It's just that some of my members insisted and asked for me to leave it this way so for a little bit longer. So here it is. Definitely use it, otherwise you'll miss out. If you lock in that price, whenever the price hikes, you'll stay still on the level you signed up at. Definitely follow me on X to be more informed, although I'm not a big fan of these platforms, but definitely follow me. I keep sort of bringing information there as well. And yeah, don't forget to, you know, like, subscribe, and all that beautiful stuff. Ring the bell, otherwise you'll be misinformed, or you'll not be up to speed whenever I make a new video and, you know, update on what's going on. That's it. See you on the next one. Bye bye.